Is Luis on the call this morning?
He was earlier.
Okay.
I'm on the call, man.
Okay. Gosh, I'll tell you that to me, a lot of things that we covered on the call, that I talked about on the call, are critical for what you need to do in order to move forward. I would just strongly encourage you to focus on some of the things, and I'm going to reiterate a few of those things this morning just to make sure that we're all on the same page. I think I only got follow through so far from one person on the commitments that I extended. So what I talked about this morning was a few things. I talked about working on your affirmations. I gave some examples of my affirmations. It's a tremendous thing to tell yourself the right things. As I've mentioned in the past, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and what you tell it. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. So affirmations, I know it sounds so simple, but I'm just going to tell you over and over and over again, reading the right thoughts into your mind on a daily basis really reprograms the brain. You will find over time that it has a tremendous difference on how you see things, on your attitude, your perception of your day. I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff. So I would strongly suggest that you really reconsider what some of your affirmations are, or gosh, in the first place, just commit to a life of affirmations. Every day, I would suggest in the morning, repeating certain affirmations. You can include those in your goals that you have. So as you're reading your goals in the morning and kind of pre-planning your day, and really you should do this at night as well, just kind of sandwiching your day, so you're right on the front end and on the back end with your goals and reading affirmations and just really embracing a positive reprogramming. It makes a difference. You really will if you try to get a little bit more mindful with yourself about how you really feel and what your emotions are and sort of the state of your attitude. You're going to find that as you become more mindful of your emotions and your state of being, that reading those affirmations every morning, repeating them throughout the day, it is going to change the way you feel. I will absolutely promise you that. It has for me, and that's why I stress it at such a high level. And once you turn yourself on to this idea of affirmations and how important it is, you're going to start hearing affirmations in everyday circumstances. You're going to actually hear affirmations in circumstances that affirmations weren't being offered. You know, I've been sitting in a movie before in the movie theater and heard a statement and thought, oh, there's a piece of an affirmation. I've overheard conversations and in some cases I've heard negative things and thought, oh, the opposite of that is what that person should be telling themselves, and so I'm going to tell myself the opposite of that. You know, so once you flip that reticular activator on in your head, and you decide that affirmations are key and they're important, and that reprogramming your brain is a critical part of it, you're going to start hearing these things all over the place all the time, and it's going to have an impact. And I think we could all agree that just living a more positive state of being is good for all of us. Yes or no? Yeah. So I'm just trying to help you build sort of a foundation for doing that. I've told many of you this before, but I think it's appropriate for this particular conversation. Many years ago, and I'll say this kind of briefly because some of you have heard this before in the past, but many years ago I prided myself on being the person that was very in tune with current events. And so I would listen to AM radio like it was a drug. I mean, I just, all day, every day, anytime you got in my vehicle, there wasn't music, it was AM radio. and I was listening to political stuff, and I was listening to news radio, and I was listening to all this stuff, and I just got caught up in sort of a pride about knowing what was going on in the world, and I really attached my effectiveness as a communicator and a closer and somebody that met with people. I really attached some value to the fact that I knew what was going on in the world today, and I could bring it up in a conversation. I could intelligently interact with people about what was happening. And then I went to a major conference and was listening to one of the winningest coaches in college football history, and he shared a story about how he heard some negative things about himself on the radio, and it had such a negative impact on it that he just decided, man, I worry too much about what people think, and I worry too much about listening to the radio, and there's so much negative on there, not just about me, but about other things. And he told his driver, shut it off, I don't want to hear it again. Were you at this conference? You remember this? And at the time, he didn't really realize the impact that would have on him. But he was such an addict as well to this radio that his driver said, are you sure? Is that really what you want me to do? And he's like, yes, shut it off. And his driver was like, okay, kind of surprised because he was so into it. And I think anyone that had followed me around at that time would have thought the same thing. They would have thought, are you sure you don't want to turn off this AM radio? You might go into convulsions or have a seizure because you're not listening to it anymore. But I heard that day, and man, I've always just been so interested in development, in personal growth. I've always been so interested in protecting my attitude and my way of thinking, my thoughts, that I just thought, man, it can't hurt. But you got to realize that took some willpower, because I had a preconceived notion prior to that day of how valuable that was. I had a buildup in my mind. But when I listen to somebody that I see as somebody that's ahead of me in the game of success, I respect the individual, there was enough credibility for me with that gentleman in terms of his winning track record, his success story, his ability to influence others as a coach, and his winning track record as in the world of sports, that I just thought, you know what? I'm going to put aside my mentality, my thoughts, my convictions about this, which were strong, but I can always subvert and suppress my thought processes if I think somebody with some credibility that's beyond me is going to give me direction that I should be adhering to. And so I just made a decision that day, a flip of a switch. I'm going to shut off this thing that I've been very driven about. I'm going to shut it off, and I'm going to see what happens. And I can just tell you no more than this, that within a couple of weeks, I felt a difference in my attitude, in just my emotions, my just general feeling of peace and kind of happiness and just positive. And it's hard to explain other than that. But I did. I remember thinking, gosh, I feel happier. It took a couple of weeks. I had to get that drug out of my system. I had to purge it. But I'm telling you, and then here was the stark contrast, was soon after that, and it didn't take more than a couple of weeks. At that time, my spouse was also addicted to this type of thing and didn't buy into this adjustment I made, which is fine. It's not for me to judge what somebody else will do. But I would get in the vehicle, and that would be on. And man, it's hard to explain, but I would immediately recognize the negative tone to that radio station or that news network, the tone of voice that they talk in. And it was such a contrast, and I hadn't been sensitive to it before, but I felt it as soon as I heard it. And some of you have experienced this in other environments in terms of just hearing somebody that kind of talks negative, that's cynical, that's those type of things. I have no interest in that in my life. I want to purge those relationships. And it doesn't mean that I can't love somebody that's got a sort of a negative outlook, but I'm certainly not going to hold hands with them and walk into the sunset. I'm not going to let them affect my attitude all day, every day. I'm going to associate with positive as much as I possibly can. And so I got to reiterate what I said this morning on the conference call. Place those affirmations into your life as a systematic thing and watch what happens over the next little while, and turn on that spot in your brain to find those things on a consistent basis, and it'll make a difference. The second thing is setting some very, very deliberate goals daily, and then being accountable. You need to report those things. And so what I need is a text message from all of you this morning. What are you going to do today towards your goals? And give me some set things, minimum standards. You don't have to knock it out of the park, though knocking out of the park is always a good idea. But do something, right? Move in the right direction. Listen, I don't have to tell the right guy to knock it out of the park. He's going to knock it out of the park on his own. I used to think a long time ago that, hey, I could somehow twist the unmotivated individual to becoming motivated, and I just can't. And really, I don't want to. I don't want to micromanage somebody's willpower, because if I micromanage their willpower, then when I remove myself out of your day, what happens? They go back to doing what they did. So what I try to do is I try to motivate and inspire people to develop that on their own, and do it regardless of who's watching or who's listening or who knows what's going on. And so I would expect a message from each one of you within the next hour where you tell me what's going on and what's happening. I'm not going to be engaged in the business, as you see by my appearance this morning. I got up pretty early. Man, it feels good to get up early, doesn't it? I'll tell you, that's another thing I would tell you. Get up early. And I didn't get up crazy early. I think I set my alarm today for like I want to say 6 o'clock or 5:45 or something like that. But it's amazing how powerful the mind is. I woke up about 10 or 15 minutes before my alarm went off. Has that happened to you guys? And it happens to me all the time. If I've got in my mind the night before a game plan that I'm excited about, and I'm going to attack it, and I feel like tomorrow's going to be my day, and I'm going to make some things happen that I feel good about, I'll wake up before that. Isn't that powerful when you think about the mind? It's obviously working even when you're asleep. And so it's aware of time when you're asleep. Isn't that interesting? And so I woke up 15 minutes to 20 minutes before the alarm went off, and so it must have been 5:30, something like that. And I just thought, man, I'm ready to attack it. And I slept clear through the night and just bounced up out of bed and started my dailies. And so, prayer and then scriptures and then cleanliness is one of those dailies. And so making the bed and straightening up some things and not leaving dishes in the sink from the night before, so you wake up to a new, clean day. These little daily disciplines that just help the environment to be positive, as a whole. And then it's reading my goals and my affirmations, and then getting off to the gym. And I wanted to get to the gym and be in the parking lot by the time the phone call happened. And in between that, I made sure I ate properly, and I have a very detailed nutrition plan every day. So I ate properly. I cooked my breakfast and ate, and then headed to the gym. And I made a couple of phone calls and some text messages and some mentoring on the way there and a little bit before. Reached out to some folks, and then I'm sitting in the parking lot and conference call. And I think conference call was about 15 to 20 minutes, somewhere in that range. And then right into the gym after that and feeling great about it. And then I organized a time with Gray. Say hi, Gray. Hi. My youngest dude here. And we're going to go on a hike, right?
Uh-huh.
How long you been waiting to go on a hike? What did you tell me on the way here?
5,100 days.
5,100 days he's been waiting to go on a hike. So he and I are going on a hike this morning. We're going to go up Adams Canyon, and so we're excited about that. I just went I just and made a little bit of an adjustment to plan. So after I was going to pick him up after this meeting, but then some communication between Lisa and I, and so I drove straight to the gym and grabbed him real quick, and then came here. And so we've got a fun time planned out. But the reason I bring that up is that we're going to be together for a couple hours, a few hours. We're going to do some fun things and have a good time. And I looked forward to that. We are, right? And I like having him here as well. I think it's a good thing for him to hear some of this. And we might think that he's not paying any attention at all, but they grab more than we think they do. My kids have all grown up in the environment of hearing this stuff, right? And I think it has had a tremendous impact on them. My oldest daughter made some new goals about a month or so ago that she didn't feel like cheerleading. She fought for that thing like you can't believe for a few years, didn't she? I mean, some of you have been around a little bit. And I don't think it was her God-given gift, in my opinion, just from observing. But she set it as a goal, and we got her the right coaching and the right mentoring and the right help. But man, she just worked at it every day, and she didn't make cheer the first time, and she struggled, but she fought at it, and then she made her high school team. And I'm proud of her because she eventually decided that the environment wasn't the right environment. I think that was the core issue. It was negative. The coach there did not make her feel inspired. It was not the environment she wanted to be in, and so she decided she's going to run for office, and she was going to get into theater and musicals and singing, which she's also done since she was a little girl, and is amazing at that, as some of you have seen her perform. And she just tried out for 2 musicals and got both of them. She got a lead role in one, and which is awesome. Her first time. I think she said there was like 250 kids that tried out, and they picked 40 or 50. And then she also has been she's been notified that she received a lead role in the second one as well, but isn't quite sure what exact role it is until I think today or tomorrow she gets a call back on it. But why do I bring that up? I think it's a byproduct of the environment that she grew up in. She's fighting for goals. She's learned to do that by example. She's heard these things her whole life. And so this is also something that I would suggest you embrace for the benefit of your kids. That they see you reading your goals, that they hear you talking about affirmations. Don't be afraid. In fact, be encouraged to bring this stuff up with your kids, to talk about these things. Why not have a sit down with them tonight or Sunday evening of this next week, or whenever you have family time? Don't be afraid to sit down with them and have a conversation about affirmations and share some of yours and goal setting. I just think, man, what a powerful conversation to have. This is meant for all ears, and why not embrace that and bless them with that type of mindset. And so send me some of your goals. Let me know what you plan on doing in the next 7 days, but mostly today. And the last thing I'll leave you with is today matters. Your life is going to come out like today does. But at the same time, it can be overwhelming sometimes. You have these big goals and aspirations about things you want to accomplish, and sometimes it doesn't come as quickly as we want it to, and sometimes the demons that we have to battle mentally and emotionally are difficult. So the thing I shared this morning that I think is just very impactful was an individual that I've been mentoring recently that doesn't have any relation to the business at all, but has reached out to me because he's been suffering from an addiction. And he reached out and said, man, I'm struggling, and his message that I just want to read again because I just think it's powerful. His message was, I'm feeling very down, very discouraged. I really want to go back to my addiction tonight. I just need to check in and see what your advice is. The first thing that I want to tell you that is huge about that is one of the keys to changing habits, particularly things of an addictive nature, but it fits into business and everything. One of the keys is that you reach out and connect. Connection is one of the biggest keys. When somebody's not doing what they want to do, I've noticed this in business, when somebody's not doing the things that they need to do, they don't reach out. They don't want you to know. People don't report, hey, I did nothing today. Feeling pretty bad about it, you know? They don't do that. What do? They reach out when? They reach out when it's going good. Hey, I closed business today. Hey, I did this today. Hey, I hit all my goals today. I'm feeling great about myself, and so they want to let people know it, and they want to celebrate, which is good. But when should you reach out the most? When you're not doing it and you're hurting. And so I would encourage you in terms of the business world that you match up with others, that you get some accountability, that you set some goals, that you connect with somebody. So I'm giving you permission to reach out, tell me what the goals are, reach out to the group. You can put it on our Slack if you want on the thread there, but send me a personal message as well about what you're going to do. And if you're not feeling it, if you're feeling discouraged, or hey, I don't think I can make it happen, reach out. You know, I'm not feeling real positive. I'm not feeling real encouraged. And just reaching out will actually diminish that. I promise you. I know it might seem simple, but it's absolutely true. When you're feeling uninspired, you're feeling discouraged, when you reach out and connect with others, it brings those feelings out of hiding, feelings of shame or embarrassment or discouragement or desperation. It brings those things out of hiding, and by bringing them out of hiding, you take the power away from them. And be honest with where you're at and what you're feeling. I'm not feeling it today. That's okay. So this guy reaches out, and I said, listen, brother, tonight you can put it off. You don't need to give into it tonight. Tonight, let's let tonight be a victory. Who knows what tomorrow brings, but don't worry about tomorrow. But not tonight. You have the strength to read your goals and your affirmations, read your scriptures, say your prayers, and then shut it down tonight and just go to sleep. And wake up tomorrow and call it a victory. And he said, thanks, I'm going to do that. This was late last night. Thanks, I'm going to do that. Was about 10:30 last night. And I said, report to me in the morning. I want to see one word from you. I want to see victory. And sure enough, I mean, you could see it right in the text here. He said, victory this morning. Thank you so much. And that's a huge deal. I don't know. Maybe he falls off the wagon today. That'll be up to him. But you know what? Yesterday was a victory. And the more of those you stack up, the better. Falling off the wagon is part of it in business. You have some goals. You're probably not going to hit those goals every day. You should. You could. If you want it bad enough, you will. But if you don't just throw it all away and say, well, I'm screwed now. What you do is you look back and you say, you know what? I've made progress. I've headed in the right direction. It's time to start having a little bit more of those. What if you just had more victory? What if you just start with today? And what if I just plant this seed? What if you just had one more day of victory business-wise this week than you did last week? You know, if you really lined it up, I'm just going to ask you to be maybe a little vulnerable and honest with this with yourself. You don't need to answer out loud. But last week, was there a day where at the end of it you felt good about doing a little bit more than you had in other days? There was a day like that for you? No? Yes? No? John?
Week before there was.
Week before?
Week. Yeah.
Jace? No. Do you have a day of victory? So you got half yeses and half no's in here? The thing I got a problem with a little bit is the two of you that said no. you might not sense it, but once I point this out, maybe you will. You said it with a little hint of shame, embarrassment. I would work on getting rid of that. It just is what it is at this point. I don't think that you ought to not feel. I don't think you ought to not feel bad about it. I think you ought to have a bit of, man, I didn't do it today. But I think you also need to bounce back and not. You definitely don't want to shame yourself in terms of what you haven't done. That's not a healthy thing. What you want to do is just realize, hey, it is what it is. That doesn't mean you take it casually, because it's not a good thing, right? But here's the good news. What is your minimum standard for setting up new appointments with new people in a day? Like, worst case scenario, what is it? 2? What if today you just did 2? How do you think you'd feel about that? So here's what I'm going to give you permission to do. Maybe you just need to hear it out loud. You probably won't feel like today was a victory in your mind. This is a false core belief. You probably won't exit today feeling like it was a victory if you just set up 2 appointments. But I'm going to give you permission to think that. I'm going to give you permission to compartmentalize some of your day to where you can celebrate one aspect even if the other aspect weren't maybe where you wanted to be. I think what you need to do is give yourself permission to feel good a little bit more often. It's like a little rat experiment.
Get you a little slaps of dopamine, guys.
Give you a little dopamine. Why not? Give you a little cheese. Do a couple things right, get a little bit of cheese. It's okay to get shocked, but then get some cheese and feel okay, So I'm just telling you, stop beating yourself up. It's not going to help you. I don't want you to completely let yourself off the hook. But I want you to feel good if you set up 2 appointments today. You could look back and say, man, I didn't do this and this and this. Or you look back and say, I did this today. And that's better than what I did Friday or Saturday or yesterday. Right?
Yep.
So just a little bit of progress at a time. And eventually what will happen is you'll start to feel like setting up 2 appointments is beneath you once you do it consistently enough. And you'll just naturally upgrade and turn up the temperature. It'll be a fun thing to watch. Make sense? All right. I think little dude here is had it with the meeting. He's already hiking.
He's about to take the seat.
He's already hiking. He's standing on a stack of chairs back there.
Trying to figure out how that takes.
You ready to go, buddy? Okay. So listen, I appreciate everybody. Let's just have a victory today. Let's put off the old guy and let's have a good one. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, brother. Stay away from the water.